So yeah, like I said in last week's class, anybody who takes that, they always kind of walk away and go, wow, I really didn't think about my real estate practice needing to have the proper mindset, right? And what are my limited thoughts around that? And, this business is, a get rich business, and the fact that, opportunity abounds. And so you get what you put into it, right? So if we don't work today, that's okay. But what do you expect your business to produce 30 to 45 days from now? And so having that really good mindset is super important. Did any of you have any ahas that you wanted to share from going through the limited thinking, and how did you rewrite that? And what did you come up with? I want to kind of recap what our entrepreneur's mantra is. Does anybody have any ahas you want to share? The rest of you got 11 minutes of deep sleep last night. I need 2 cups of coffee. Thanks to my little groovy watch telling me that, right? You got a crappy night's sleep, but now your watch is telling you, yeah, you really did. So for me, I think just being able to rewrite that, like this morning, I should turn the recording off. He's not home. The sink is empty except for one bowl sitting on the counter. And instead of getting mad, I took the bowl and I was like, I get to put this bowl in the dishwasher because I love this human being I share space with, right? And so I was just reframing my mindset of, instead of getting irritated, like, Scott, why can't you just put the dish right? It's right there. Instead of doing that, reframing that thought and coming from a heart space of, I get to do this, right? Because I care about this person. So I'm really thinking about that, especially when we're dealing with difficult people and transactions, right? I get to do this. We talked a lot about passion links last week, about that, exactly that, right? Am I doing this because I'm coming from a place of love, or am I doing it because I have to, and I'm resentful and I really don't want to do it, right? And so today we're going to get into irrefutable fact number 2, and then breaking down what are our core values. But before I do that, let's do share screen. Let's see, where are you? Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. There it is. Okay. I should really close some of my windows on my desktop, so quite a few open. All right. So we talked the last slide of the previous class was, what is your entrepreneur's mantra? And I challenged all of you to, put this up somewhere where you can see it regularly. And so yesterday we went ahead and did our gas meeting despite them canceling it. And there was only a couple of us on there, but we each shared what our financial goal was yesterday. And so, and then breaking that down, I want to break that down into, what does that look like as far as transactions? Because I think a lot of us make that number really big, but when we break it down and look at it, okay, well, for me, it's 2 houses a month. That doesn't seem impossible, right? And so that making that goal. And so when we break it down, does anybody want to share what their entrepreneur's mantra is? So remember, it's unacceptable for my business to earn or profit less than. So profit would mean, what do I take home, right? What's my net? Or profit after bills are paid and everything's funded. Or I like to kind of keep it just simple of, how much money do I want to make next year to fund my life? So anybody got a number they want to share? No? All right. Well, let's just take 100 grand, because that seems to be kind of a nice ring to it that a lot of agents have as far as their goal. And so this is in page 27 of the material. So I'm kind of going out of order. Let me grab it. Actually, no, I'm just going to do the math with you guys. So if we take 100 grand, on page 27, it breaks it down to, if you have a higher end listing or a lower end listing, referrals, how many buy sides, or how many sell sides do you want to do? A lot of new agents will gravitate towards doing more buyer sides, and kind of wait until they feel like they've got their business developed to take the listings. I'd like to challenge you to not do that. There's no reason to. With the support and the training that you have through Momentum, and all the other things that we have, you don't have to do that. You can go into Max Center right now and download the listing presentation. It may not be exactly what you want it to be, but if you caught a call right now, Chris, and said, come list my house, you've got a tool available to you right now, right? You don't have to get stuck in that, well, I got to have Nate's budget to market, all that. No, you don't. If you use the MLS and you use the tools that are available to you, you'll sell homes, okay? And those who list are the ones who last. And so, but caveat to that, we've spent the last couple years, especially in the really robust pandemic market, focusing, and as a coach, go get listings, go get inventory. We have no inventory. And so what we did is we swung the pendulum way over here, and we stopped focusing on buyers. right? Buyers were hard, Monica. I've never in 25 years of selling real estate had to write 7 offers to get one to stick. And I'm not the best negotiator, but I feel like I'm pretty good, right? So, if I wrote 2 or 3 offers, it's because we fell out on one or we had an appraisal issue or something happened, right? And so it was a hard market. And so we, some of us, I think, even avoided working with buyers because it was hard. And so now we have this inventory. I got an email from KB Homes the other day with a list of inventory. So I messaged her back. I said, what are your incentives? 6%, you guys. 6%. You can do a lot with 6% to buy down an interest rate, right? And so, or pay for whatever, pay for closing costs, whatever, right? So 6%, that's huge. So new home construction, there's a ton of opportunity out there for that. And so I think that when we talk about having listings, and I want you to focus on having listings and not get stuck in that space of, well, I'm new, no one's going to want to list their house with me. It's the same process, right? So it's the same process, and you have tools available to you. But on the other side of that, I also think that we need to have a budget to market for buyers. We need to be raising the roof and talking about the fact that there's 19,000 homes in the market. Did you guys see it dipped though? We were at like 22 and it went down to 17 after the first of the year. Homes expired. So expired listings are definitely opportunities out there. So, because those people still have a need to sell. And maybe I'll do the expired class next month. I'm going to put that on the calendar because I have a whole boot camp on how to work expired listings. So when we think about buyers, I think we have to have a balance there, right? We got to be able to market our listings. We got to be able to do that. And then also market to buyers so that people know that there's opportunity. Because if you're sitting on the couch surfing Netflix, right, or on Facebook, what are you seeing? The sensational headlines are saying that it's not a good time to buy. One of my favorite people I follow says that we should prepare for a long, dark recession. It really turns me off. I know what he's trying to say, but it really bugs me because that's the sensationalized headline on his video. It says we need to prepare for a long, dark recession. I don't like that, right? Because is there really evidence? And he's a smart guy, right? So maybe he's seeing something I'm not seeing, but I also think that our perceptions are reality. And by the way, recessions are good for real estate. Just going to put that out there, right? They're good for real estate. They're good for interest rates. Okay, so we're going to do $100,000 as our GCI. I'm not going to get into RE/MAX splits or any of that or tax brackets. Just going to give you guys basic math on how to figure out how many homes you need to sell. So does anybody know what the average sales price is right now in Phoenix after our kind of course correction?
475.
Okay, I think that's a little high. Anybody else got a guess? Maybe Scott, where do you live in? Where do you live? You're in a higher.
Glendale. I'm right by the office, 5 minutes away.
Okay.
I mean, if I went off my first sale that I just got, 400.
Okay. You did 400. Good. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, they were asking 415. So
yeah, I just put one under contract. We started out at 255 and we were under contract at 202. So now the house needs a lot of work. So got to take that into consideration. But the house next door needed some work, not as much. And we were at 285 and we sold at 260. So, I mean, there's definitely people making concessions, right?
Yeah.
So before the market shifted, our average sales price was about 460. So let's just go 400 just to be conservative. Okay. So 400,000 and our commission or apples, as I'm supposed to say in the office is 2.75. Okay. So we won't want to say commission, but 2.75 apples. So 2.75. So that's an average commission of $11,000. Anybody can do this math in their head? $100,000 divided by 11,000. And again, not taking in RE/MAX splits or your splits on your teams, but you would have to sell 9.09 houses, so round up to 10. So if you're on a team, so Monica, if that was your goal and you're on a team and you're on a 50-50 times 2. So you'd need to do 20 transactions in order to hit 100 grand if you're on a 50-50. Okay. So if you're on different splits, you can figure that out. Right. And of course, if you want to go really deep with it, you can figure out your RE/MAX fees and all that other stuff. I had casually at the beginning of last year in my head, I think I shared this with you guys last week, threw out a financial goal. I hit that. I actually hit it by $5 grand. But I had to pay out 3 referral fees, which were close to, it was like $9,400. So I need to be clear, right, Janae, that this is my goal, but if I have to pay referral fees, that it's above and beyond that, right? And so I'm grateful for that, for my workman family trusting me to refer their business, but I didn't take that into consideration. So we got to be careful what we ask for. I hit the goal, right, in GCI, but I didn't hit the goal in net, okay? So does that help you guys to figure out that if you wanted to make 100 grand, if you're not on a team, it's roughly 10 units, at 11,000, but you need to track your own numbers. My average commission is not 11 grand, right? And if I take into consideration what I paid in referral fees, it's even less than that. Okay. So we want to be really specific about that. And I would even say aim higher. And then if you make more, great, right? Then to aim low and then be disappointed with the outcome. Okay. So, and I think that if you're doing the right activities in our market, I think selling 2 houses a month should be, I think that's pretty realistic. They say that what we advocate at Workman is that for every 25 leads you generate, it should result in 2 transactions per month. All right. So how am I generating leads? We've talked a lot about pillars. I shared with you guys that I put this little house on Facebook Marketplace. Now, I fielded a lot of spam, I'm not going to lie, get a lot of people saying, hey, is it available? And no responses back. But I got 4 solid leads from that. 4 solid leads that resulted in 2 showings and 2 leads that came through that are leads that could be worked. So, and then that's not including all the other calls I got just from sign calls and the internet and that kind of thing. So it's generated. And the rule of thumb is you should get 6 to 8 leads every 30 days of properties on the market. And I would definitely say that this house has generated that. Okay, so I know they changed the rules on Facebook Marketplace. The way I'm interpreting it means that you can't use your business pages to use Facebook Marketplace, but you can still advertise through your personal pages. And you need to disclose that you're a realtor, right? So that people know that. Okay, any questions or comments before I jump into the rest of the slides? No? All right, I hope that's helpful. And then you guys can take it from there and break it down for your own specific goals. If you're doing the journal through the GAS program, page 40 walks you through how many, it takes it deeper, right? Walks you through how many appointments you need to go on, listing appointments and buyer appointments in order to hit your financial goals. So if you're not using the journal, let me know. And I have the income goal sheet through Workman. That's the same thing. I'm happy to share that with you guys. All right, so irrefutable fact number 2. Are you guys ready for it? Real estate sales is basic. I always get pushback on this because people are like, wait, what do you mean it's basic? It's not basic. This shit is hard. So is it hard or do we make it hard, right? The contract itself is black and white, right? The contract gives us, Kristen, permission to practice law without being a lawyer. Okay, so what do I mean when I say real estate sales is basic? Any ideas? Monica, you've been doing this a minute. What do I mean by that?
I can only assume, which I hate to assume, it could be just the fact that to who, for what, and make it happen at that point.
Okay, let's go. That's good, but I'm looking for something specific. Who else is on here that's got some tenure? Roberta, how about you? What do I mean? Are you in a place you can talk? Because I don't think you have your video on.
I can talk.
Okay, what do I mean by real estate sales is basic?
I don't know that you want my answer.
Think relationship.
It's more about the client relationships, I think, than it is about the contract, because the contract is so pre-printed and it's just there. You just have to fill in a couple blanks. You got to know your shit, you said, but I think it's really about developing a plan to stay in contact with people and be a part of their lives. Homes are the biggest part of people's lives.
Absolutely. It's our primal need. So Nate and I accidentally got quoted. So we used this in the book. It was not us who said it. So I'll just say that, but it went in the book. So I guess it's ours now. But it said that you don't need leads, you need relationships. And there was an article printed by Virl recently that said, you need conversations, right? You don't need leads, you need conversations. And so when we talk about real estate sales being basic, it's basic in the sense that it is all about who do you know and the relationships that you have. Do they know you, like you, and trust you, Chris? And the 4th thing is, do you know what you're doing? And that one's optional. Because if they know you, they like you, they trust you, you can be incompetent and they're still going to do business with you. Now, we don't want that. I'm saying that to be cheeky, but you get what I'm saying, right? I can blunder something, and because they know me, like me, and trust me, it's okay. They still are going to work with me. And so when we think about growing our databases, how do I do that? Well, we got to get in front of more people, right? You got to have more opportunities to talk to people. So that's why open houses are great to grow your database, even if it's the nosy neighbor. That's okay, right? Coffee shop prospecting. You guys heard me talk about this before. Go set up a coffee shop and prospect. Do your work there. Make it obvious that you're a realtor. We work for the brand, right? The Remax balloon sells real estate. And so when people see that, they're going to come over and talk to you. And what do you think they're going to say? How's the market? Right? So we're in the basics of that is that we are about people and developing our relationships. The byproduct of that is the referrals in the future real estate business. But when we come at it with commission breath, as my friend Julie Timms would say, we turn people off in that, right? So we got to come from a place of service and come from your heart, because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We service their real estate needs. And when we come from that space, that's a heck of a lot easier, Monica, when it's time to prospect than me getting on the phone. Who do you know that needs to buy or sell a house? Nobody wants to be sold, right? Nobody wants to be sold, but they do want to be serviced. They do want to be heard. They do want to be connected to. Right. And so that's what we mean when we say real estate is basic. The contract itself is not basic, right? We do need to understand how that works and why it's important. All that legal mumbo jumbo. So a business worth owning is built upon sound principles. A successful business owner understands they are firmly rooted in the core fundamentals of their business. To succeed at a high level, you must become and remain a student of the real estate sales game. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about what is the sales game? What does that look like? And it's components of what we talked about last week of having the right mindset. Next week, we're going to talk about the 3 business models that you have. And yes, this is a business, right? When I got into real estate, I was like, I'm a 1099 contractor. No man's going to tell me what to do ever again. How funny is that, right? Because when the phone rings and it's Friday night and it's a sign call and you got to show your listing because it hasn't had any showings in 30 days, who are you working for? You're working for the man, right? So we think about the models, right? Treating it like a business. And then today we're going to talk about what are our core beliefs. So when we dissect that, getting into the beliefs. So this is on page 21 of materials. Wait, no, I jumped ahead. Sorry. Why is this not on my slides? Page 21. So real estate is a numbers game. How many of us believe that? Like if you could walk through either page 40 or the income goal sheet, and you know that if I want to sell 12 houses, how many people do I need to get in front of? And I would challenge all of you to double that. Right? 12 houses is nothing. Double it, right? So go for the 24, do 2 a month. And so if I want to do 24 transactions, how many appointments do I need to go on? How many phone calls do I need to make in order to set the appointments? And here's the thing. It does not have to be someone who's saying, I need to buy or sell a house right now. Set an appointment to go have coffee with someone. Set an appointment to go do a pop by. I promise you, if you do enough of that, you're going to have leads that are going to come your way. We have to stay top of mind with the people in our database and the people in our spheres. That's why I really have been trying super hard every day to put something out on social media that's relevant to real estate. Kind of sucked over the holiday week, but back to it yesterday. You guys, we have Photofy. Photofy has so much great content in there that's super cool to just be able to push out, and it's easy to do. So put it in your phone, right? So that you have a calendar reminder that every day trying to put something out, so you can stay top of mind with that, with the people on your social media. Okay. So it's a numbers game, really boils down to face-to-face interactions with people. So we're going to dive into the 28 beliefs. This determines our actions and the habit of the mind. We have the 3 models, which we're going to talk about next week. We have the 8 functions, and we have 14 responsibilities, which we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about ancillary arms, and then we have vital activities, which we are not going to talk about because I have a whole other class specifically just to go through the 94 vital activities that will be coming up, I believe, not next week, but the following week. And then we have the dollar productivity activities. What are the things that we need to be doing that are producing dollars, right? Making money, the money making activities. It's easy to get caught up in the minutia. Right? It's easy. You guys heard me say last week at the office meeting, and many of you laughed when I said, I don't know how to put a form in SkySlope. Don't know how to, not going to learn. Because why? It's not the highest and best use of my time. I have a transaction coordinator. She does that for me, and I pay her for that. Right. And so I say that to be cheeky. If I had to figure it out, I probably could, but it's not the highest and best use of my time. Okay. So understanding what those dollar productive activities are, and then how do I delegate, right? What are my ancillary arms that are around me that can help support that? And then we're going to talk about key performance standards. So what are the things you guys should be tracking that are your bragging rights. So what are the things that if I'm working with you as a buyer, why am I picking you, Chris, over the competition? Okay. And then understanding that there's only 24 hours in a day. When I got into the business, the sexy word was time management. Got to have good time management. Well, we realized that time management's an oxymoron, because there's only 24 hours in a day. What you can control is your behavior in those 24 hours and the activities you choose to focus on. So the reminder at page 21 is to move from typical to world-class, you must separate yourself from the pack. This requires a willingness and ability on your part to outthink, outwork, and out-strategize the competition. We always say work smarter, not harder, right? So looking for ways that we can outsource things and then out-strategize, right? How do we be better than the competition? Okay, how do we rise above that? Each of you brings something unique to the table that has nothing to do with sales, right? It's your personality, it's your previous life, right? It's what you bring to the table just as you as a human being. And so don't be afraid to lean in on those things, especially if you're new and you're like, oh, I don't really have any sales experience. Well, what did you do in your past life? That's a skill that would lend you well today, okay? All right, page 22. So every thought has a physical consequence for better or for worse. Do we agree with this? What you put out there comes back, right? Like a boomerang. So if we put negative out and we focus on negative, the negative is what we're going to get. If you've ever been on a diet, one of the things that's always interesting to me is you could either observe the people who are heavy or you can observe the people who are thin, right? Kind of interesting. So interesting way to look at things there. And we tend to, at least for myself, I tend to focus on the people who are thin because I want to gravitate towards that, right? We're on a giant magnetic ball that's, you know, warp speed through the cosmos. And there is something to be said about that, right? That everything has a consequence. And so we are attracting like, so what we think is what we attract, right? How we behave is what we attract. And so for every physical consequence, for better or worse, okay? So our belief, what do we believe to be true? That becomes a habit of the mind. You know, we're taught that the sky is blue, but what if you're colorblind? What color is the sky? Might be a shade of gray. Okay, so we have that belief. There's a great story that we used to tell all the time. I'm gonna tell you guys right now because it's funny and it's relevant. So there was a family that during the holidays, they would cook the ham and they would always lop off part of the ham. And this went on for generations. And so finally, one of the younger generations challenged this behavior and said, why do we do this? Well, they had to trace it back to like great grandma, right? And it turned out that she didn't have a pan that was big enough to fit the size of the ham. So they'd cut part of the ham off, put the pan and cook the ham. No one ever challenged that. They just kept repeating it over and over again, generation after generation, because that's how great grandma did it. And finally, when the younger generation said, why are we doing this? They challenged the belief and realized that this is silly. We don't have to waste part of the ham because now we have a pan that fits the size of the ham. That's hard to say fast. So when we think about that, when we do things over and over again, is it really our belief? Is it really true for us? Is there something that got impressed upon us because it went back generation after generation, right? And so really challenge those beliefs for yourself. Is it true for you today? Okay. And so how is a habit made? A habit is made acquired by frequency, right? Repetition over and over again, right? Doing that over and over again. And then the belief becomes truth. So you guys have heard me say that your perception is your reality. So what's true for you? So this becomes the state of being or our reality. Okay. So we are in a position right now that I'm very excited about the market. I think there's a lot of great things happening out there. I love the inventory. I love people being able to think about things, and to be able to bring their families and really make good decisions. So I feel very good about the market. And so what is the reality of that? What's your reality, right? We can think ourselves into happiness. We can think ourselves into depression. We can think ourselves into health or not health, right? And so really I would like to challenge you as you leave here today is what are my beliefs around this? What are my beliefs in general, right? Are they true for me or are they somebody else's beliefs that have been put on me? And then the bottom here, page 22 is the truth about truths. What you frequently think about becomes internalized and accepted as your truth. Truths once internalized guide your thinking and thus your behavior. Your beliefs unlimitedly define your reality and thus your world. And then having well-defined beliefs makes it easy to say yes or no. I was having this conversation with someone the other day, actually two people yesterday, about pausing and putting your hand on your heart and just asking yourself, can I say yes to this or do I need to say no? right? Setting those healthy boundaries, right? Because if we say yes and we don't really want to say yes, then now we don't have those passion links, right? And so having those defined beliefs, right? What do you believe about your business? That's what we're going to get to next. So we're talking a little bit about life, but then how does that apply to our business? Because you do this long enough, you're going to run into a toxic person that you don't want to deal with. And are you strong enough in your belief and your belief in your business that you could fire that person? I've done it. I fired someone a long time ago. Is the one time that I ever worked with a multi-million-dollar client. And they were crazy. Like, look at the dictionary, there were their names. And I fired them. And it was one of the most rewarding things I ever did in my career, which sounds crazy, right? To fire a multi-million-dollar person, but they were toxic. And I don't know that they were ever going to buy something. And I was just spinning my wheels with them. Okay. So having those boundaries, not just in our personal lives, but also in our business. Okay. I think it was Deb Parkins a couple months ago. She fired somebody. She took a listing and the guy was just really difficult and she fired him. And she's got 40 plus years in the business. She just said, I'm not going to do this. I have boundaries in my business. Okay. All right. Let me just check the chat real quick. Make sure you guys. Oh, Janae, you're welcome. Okay, Scott. Yep. It's going to be in February, so I don't know if he's still on here, but we'll do the expired class next month. All right, so let's jump into, this is on page 23. So core beliefs. So you guys all have the materials. So let's take a minute or two and read through the core beliefs. And hopefully you have those on page 23 so you can open that up. If you don't have it, put it in the chat and let me know so I can send it to you. All right, so starting with our core beliefs, our core entrepreneur beliefs. So we got something in the chat. Hold on. Kristen Lynn, it should be the same stuff you had last week because you were here last week. You're just looking at that same PDF on page 23. I thought you were here last week, weren't you? Or maybe, yeah, you were here last week. Okay, so core entrepreneur beliefs. And so we use the entrepreneur, right? Because that's all we are. We're not just salespeople. We're in the business of being entrepreneurs. And so that changes when we think I'm just a 1099 person, right? But no, entrepreneur means that I'm more than that, right? I have a vision for more than that. And so I'd love to hear your guys' thought, but a couple of mine that really stand is there's no growth without discomfort. And I think that applies to a lot of people, especially newer agents. They'll come through this class and they're very uncomfortable because there's so much to learn and it feels like you're drinking out of a fire hose. And then they come back a second time, like, okay, yeah, that's not the one that stands out to me. I live in a world of abundance is personally one of my mantras that I say on a regular basis. And then number 3, the market does not and will not determine my income is also one that I'm very strong about, because I think that if you sow the right seeds and you do the right activities and you do them consistently, you can weather any market, right? That's what our book's called, right? How to dominate any market. So I believe that if we do the right activities. The next one that stands out to me is success stems from duplicated processes and systems, especially when you're working, either buyers or sellers. If you have a process that you fire off, it guarantees that client has the same experience and a streamlined experience. And when you're working with buyers, it also streamlines your risk management, right? And you think about McDonald's. If you get hired at McDonald's, they have McDonald's University. And so you go through the university and they're taught that if you have a cup this size and you put the right amount of ice in it and you put it underneath the fountain, you hit the button for the size of the cup, it will fill to the right amount. not under, not over, because overage, if you've ever worked in a restaurant, is waste. That's where you lose money, right? And so there you are taught specifically how much ice to put in that cup and which button to push. That is a system. So when we think about things that we do in our business, if it's something we've done more than 3 times, it needs a documented system. Okay, and that then becomes the McDonaldized part of your business. The next one that stands out to me is it's unacceptable for my business to earn 0, but also I would change that to say whatever my financial goal is. And that because my mantra, right? It's unacceptable for my business to earn less than, right? And then the last one that stands out to me is number 12 is cost is only the issue in the absence of value. You guys have heard me tell this story before, but we took the boys on a skiing trip and I forgot my cooking spray, and we had rented a cabin, planned to make breakfast and stuff. And so I needed cooking spray. Well, the only grocery store in this little town, the cooking spray was teeny tiny and it was $8. And I paused for a moment because I could go to Costco and get 2 that were twice the size. So 4 times the amount of cooking spray for the same price. And I paused for a moment and said, do I really want to pay $8 for this? I did because I needed it, but cost was an issue in the absence of value. And so I love that story because it's a relatable thing that we can all think about buying an overpriced can of cooking spray. So when you sit across the table from a seller and you're asking them to pay X apples, cost is only an issue in the absence of value. You will only get commission objections if you have not demonstrated the value that you're going to bring for X apples. Okay, so get really clear about what your value proposition is and how to deliver that, and cost won't be an issue when you're talking about commission. Okay, what about you guys? What stands out to you on core entrepreneur beliefs?
Number 5 always stands out to me as focus is the key to success. It's how I start every day. As I look at my whiteboard, I focus on who I need to call and what I need to do, and try to concentrate on the tasks before me instead of wandering off in the house to do something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to do a check, like a to-do list at the end of every day, so then I can get everything out of my brain before I shut my office door and I'm not thinking about it. So, and then that sets me up the next morning. I know what's on my plate. So, and I can determine what are those things I'm going to do today.
Yeah. The other thing that stands out to me is number 1. I don't like that. I don't like the statement. I don't believe in it.
Okay.
I disagree with the theory that you can only have growth with discomfort. I think that it can be good and fun and productive and awesome and great. And if you, again, set your mindset to doing those things and to having a good time while you do it, I just don't. Number 1 absolutely does not resonate with me, and it just rubs me the wrong way.
I love your perspective because that's true. That I agree. There doesn't have to be discomfort with growth. So love that. Anything else? Anybody stands out? All right. Well, let's move on to the next section there, 13 through 18, which is the real estate sales beliefs. Oh, Chris Henderson said number 16. Okay, we'll talk about that when we get there. Okay, so I have a lot of them highlighted because I really like all of these. So real estate is a get rich business. We can think ourselves into abundance or we could not, right? Roberta and I were having this conversation yesterday, and you guys, you know the story of the pirates, right? When they got invaded by, or the islands, the Caribbean islands, when they got invaded by the pirates. The pirates had no sense of, they'd never seen, or not the pirates, the islanders had never seen pirates, right? So they'd never seen pirates. And I have actually a story about myself that this relates to, but so that when they got invaded, they had no sense of, they didn't know what it was, right? So it made it easy for the pirates to storm the islands, and before the islanders knew what was happening, because they couldn't put it together, right? They'd never seen this before. And so when we think about the market, back when the first rate hike happened, that was when the pirates landed, right? And we should have course corrected at that time. And we didn't. We just was like, what is this? What is that? And then another rate hike happened. So more pirates came on the island, right? And so pretty soon now here we are in the fourth quarter and we're being invaded. So we should have pivoted then back in May and June, because I think a lot of, and I can speak to my own coaching clients, a lot of them finished the year not where they wanted to be because we didn't pay attention to the pirates that were storming the market. And so we didn't course correct. And so last year at Christmas, not this last year, but the previous year, Mitch got me a bicycle. And I literally came out of the bedroom, and because I wasn't expecting a bicycle to be under the tree, I did not see it. I didn't see it. So I was looking at everything else that was there and like, oh God, right. And he was like, are you kidding me right now? And I'm like, what? And he goes, look again. And I turned around and I was like, oh, shoot, there's a bicycle sitting right there. And so you think about like, how is that even possible to walk out into a living room and not see a bicycle sitting under the tree? But because I didn't have a frame of reference, just like the Islanders with the pirates, I wasn't expecting a bicycle to be there, so I didn't see it. And so that's the same thing with the market, right? And I think we have to get better about predicting that and course correcting. So when the Fed say they're going to raise rates, we probably should have paid attention to that a little bit closer, right? And started making those course corrections then instead of waiting until the fourth quarter. And now all of a sudden everyone's like, oh my God, what do I do about pricing? And that's when we see all those lot of price reductions happening, right? All at once. And then the sensational headlines like, oh, the market's plummeting. The market wasn't plummeting. It was course correcting from something we should have done in May and June, right? So just my little thoughts about that. So going back to the things here. Number 16, Chris, I totally agree with that. I will not convert 100% of the leads I do not generate. You guys have heard me say this before. You shouldn't get out of bed every day and wonder who needs your services. We want to have a pipeline, right? When we meet people, maybe they might be 6 months out. That's okay, Monica, because you're going to need the lead in 6 months. Right. That's why I love new home construction, because I can put a whole bunch of stuff in the pipeline and I know I'm going to get paid in 6 months, right? Because I had those new home constructions in the pipeline. And so we don't be afraid of those C leads, because we need the C leads. Plus, C leads can be turned into A leads. Right? If they have the right motivation and we do our job and we get out there and we find them what they're looking for, all of a sudden their motivation changes. Okay. So we constantly want to be building our pipeline. Anything else? What else stands out to you guys? Is there any other ones on there? Come on, where's my C's that always say number 17? Monica gets that one. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So these are all good. So let's jump down to the next section, 19 through 23, which is our listing beliefs. Okay, so the ones that stand out to me are number 19, home sell for 2 reasons, price and exposure. When we talk about listings, this is where I think a lot of agents get caught up, as they say, well, I don't have a marketing budget, I can't do postcards and blah, 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 right? Excuse for not taking listings. But the reality is, if you become a pricing strategist, you study the market, you study the trends, you preview, you get out, you look at new homes, read the positive articles about things, and you can price things so that they sell, and you use the MLS. That's your biggest and baddest tool that we have to expose homes, because the MLS syndicates to thousands of places. And if you have a good write-up, the right directions, and professional photography, then you've done, and you use all the fields in the MLS, then you've done what you need to do to expose that home. Now, are there other things we can do? Absolutely. But those are the basics that you need, right, in order to list and sell homes. Okay. The next thing is, what's put in motion stays in motion. And so when we talk about pricing a home too high, now all of a sudden what's put in motion is price reductions, right? And we're chasing the market down. Okay. And then the last one is that pricing homes is not an exact science. Now, we don't have a crystal ball, right? A buyer could come along and we don't know that their best friend lives 3 doors down the road. And now all of a sudden they have a different motivation than the guy who might not have that relative down the road, right? That's not to say that we just willy-nilly, we still have to have being a pricing strategist, but sometimes homes will sell for reasons that we don't understand. Okay. Anything else stand up to you guys on those? I don't know why my slide's not advancing. Okay. All right, well, let's jump into buyer beliefs. 24 to 28. So I think all of these are really critical when we're working with buyers. So the first one, time reveals all. Some of you guys know Frank Russo. And back when Frank was a baby agent, he got a buyer lead. He was super excited about it. And he spent 5 days with this buyer lead. And on the 5th day, the wife turned to the husband and said, "Do you think that we should tell Frank that we filed bankruptcy last week?" Which means that they basically were not able to buy for at least 24 months, right? You got to be 2 years outside of a bankruptcy. And Frank tells the story because if he had done a buyer consultation and asked the right questions, then time reveals all. He wouldn't have spent 5 days with someone who was not able to buy a home for at least the next 2 years. Okay. So when we think about that, one of my hot buttons is doing buyer consultations. I will tell you in my career, the 2 times that I didn't do one, it crashed and burned. It was terrible. Okay. So I'm a, dare I say, militant? Maybe militant's the right word. I think it's super critical. You cannot gain the loyalty of a buyer without investing the time in them. They think that what buying a home is what they see on reality TV, right? I yell at those shows when Mitch watches them. I'm like, this is not how it works. And Monica, you know, you were on a reality TV show, right? You know what BS that is. And so what gets ratings, right? What gets clicks. And so when we invest in Chris, and you go through my consultation is simple. I go through the purchase contract. I highlight the most important parts of that, right? Earnest money, the contingencies, inspections, all of that, right? Go through the contract. I get anything that I can get signed. So agency, market advisory, buyer advisory, get all that stuff signed and out of the way. Talk about agency. What are our fiduciary duties? We talk about the market advisory. We talk about the buyer advisory. And by the time I go through that, it's about an hour. They understand that it's not what they see on TV. Looking at houses, that's the fun part, but it's scary when you look at the contract and all the ways that things can go south. And so having a buyer consultation is the only way to gain the loyalty of that person. Okay. Now that's not to say you won't be a Pop-Tart occasionally. And I'll get into being what a Pop-Tart is here in a minute. But motivated, qualified, and loyal people buy homes. These are A buyers. Now, that's not to say that you wouldn't show a B buyer or someone that comes into town because they're here for the Barrett-Jackson. They see a sign and they want to look at it. I'm going to go show that because I don't know what that person's motivation is and where they are in the process. Okay. And I might build a rapport with them that they end up being a buyer down the road. Okay. One of Nate's, he's actually a good friend of his, a really good client. He's since moved, I think, Florida, but they're still friends. But the dude was a sign call on his way to the airport, heading back to wherever he was going, ended up being a multi-transaction deal and a friend for Nate. And so there's those moments when you deviate from your process if your gut tells you it's the right thing to do. Okay. So having a process reduces the risk. I already kind of talked about that earlier. If they won't meet me, they're not a buyer. So caveat to that, if I have a sign call, and I'm not necessarily going to pounce on a sign call and say, "Hey, Chris, come into the office before I can show you, I got to have a consultation." I'm not going to do that. I'm going to vet them on the phone, make sure that the tiny hairs on the back of my neck aren't standing up, that they might be wanting to chop me up and put me in their trunk. So I'm going to ask the right questions, right? And then I'm going to go show the property to them so I can build a rapport. And then at that point, if I feel like that there's an opportunity to build a rapport, to bring them back to the office or set an appointment to follow up, to have them come in and do a consultation. Okay. Now I might even try to show them 2 homes. Let's jump into MLS and see if there's anything else available on that same street that fits their criteria. Because the more time I spend with them, the better chance I have of converting them into someone who will come into the office to do a buyer consultation. So if they won't meet me, they won't come in and do a consultation, then they probably aren't a legitimate. They aren't the number 25, motivated, qualified, loyal people. Okay. And motivated, what does that mean? Motivated. So someone says, "Well, I don't have a lease." Okay, maybe they're not motivated, but I'm living with my in-laws with my 2 pets and my 2 kids. High motivation, right? It would be for me, right? So maybe not for some others if they like their family. So not that I love my mother-in-law, but I couldn't live with my mother. Forget about that. But motivated, right? So determining what that motivation is, where are they at in the process? Okay, so if they won't meet you, caveat, why won't they meet you? Okay. And the same thing, if they're a cash buyer and they won't provide proof of funds, they probably aren't cash, right? They got some issues there. Okay. And of course, qualified, you guys know what that means. We gain the loyalty from having a buyer consultation. And then number 28, A buyers deserve my immediate time and attention. And again, I might go show a C lead. I'm not gonna go spend a whole day with them, but if a C lead comes in and they want to see a house, I'm gonna go show that house to solidify the relationship. And we're going into this time of year when the city is going to expand, right? We got the Super Bowl, we got the Barrett Jackson, we got the PGA, you've got the horse show, so the spring training. So from now until April, the city is going to swell with people coming from out of town. So there's a lot of opportunity for people that they get here and they get romantic with the weather because it's beautiful in the springtime here, right? And then they realize that it's hotter than the sun's surface in July, but that's a story for another day. So there's opportunity for people who are coming into town right now, that if you've got listings that they might want to see those. So for they may not be an A buyer today, but one, if I need to show my listings, I haven't had any showings. That's important to my seller. But two, what is the opportunity to build rapport with that person to put them in my pipeline that later they become an A? Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Questions, comments, thoughts? Nobody? I got something in the chat. Sorry, all of a sudden, let's get to the end and that's how I got roped in. The weather swept me off my feet. Yep. And you came out here to dry off from Washington, though. All that rain in Washington. You had to come down here just to dry off. Chris came from Hawaii, beautiful Hawaii. So I know you've been out here, but how was your first summer? Or was it your second summer from Hawaii?
Yeah, it's hot.
It's hot. Yeah.
It's like a reverse winter. You just stay inside unless you're in a pool.
Is it true that Hawaii has no snakes?
I never saw one.
No?
They're there,
I've
but
heard that.
they're just invasive. Like people had snuck them in and they escaped. It's not like you don't have to worry walking through 6 feet tall grass.
No, not like here. Oof.
Definitely not.
Although I will say one thing, if you've never been to Hawaii, people will warn you about the chickens, but until you go there and you experience the chickens yourselves, you can't, it's like the pirates, right? There's no point of reference because the chickens are everywhere. So everywhere. I mean, they're in the Circle K parking lot. They're on the beach. They're in the trees. Like they're everywhere.
They're beautiful too.
I had one attack me. So I did not think she was beautiful. We were at the botanical gardens on Kauai, and which was absolutely beautiful, but we were feeding the birds and walking through the botanical gardens, and this one chicken, she was after me. So
if you have painted toenails and you're wearing slippers, your toes are in for a feast.
Really?
Keep
Wow.
that note. Yes, they were going after my wife's toes over in Waimea on Kauai. Yeah.
How funny. Yeah, she was beady-eyed coming after me. So all right. So questions, comments, thoughts. I would encourage you guys to print out page 23 and laminate it and hang it somewhere, or just hang it on your wall so that when you get ready to do your prospecting, that you read through these core beliefs, so that you can get your mindset in the right space, because you really do need to possess all of them. I know we talk about which ones stand out to you, but really at the end of the day, we want to have all of them be a part of our core of what we believe about our business. Okay. So next week, we're going to talk about the 3 models that make up a business. Tomorrow, we got a lunch and learn with Title Alliance at Arrowhead North. So take advantage of that. And of course, Jody is just infectious. Love her. And I think they're going to be bringing in a mobile notary, which should be pretty insightful to find out, like, what are the questions our clients are asking, when they're sitting down with the mobile notary. Because I know not everybody goes to closings, so they're signings. So that's what we're covering tomorrow, Chris, is the mobile notary. Like, what are the most common questions that your clients ask? And then I think they were going to do something else too. Title was. Anybody else remember what they were going to talk about? Or there was something else that Jody was going to do. I don't remember, but it'll be a good class. It'll be worth your time. Plus, free lunch. And then Thursday we have the Broker Road show. And then we got a lot of stuff going on this week. or this month, a lot of good stuff. But all right. With that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for being here. And if you guys need anything, I'm just a phone call, email, text away. Okay. So let me know if I can help you with anything.
Thanks, Sarah.
Have a great, you're welcome. Have a great day. All right. Bye-bye.